Good morning and welcome to Paradise Church. My name is David Anderson and I am the pastor here. And we're excited that you are joining us online this week and throughout the month of July. During the month of July, we have a number of key leaders that are going to be out. I'm going to be out the entire month, but more importantly, those who run the live stream, who are way more important than I am, they're also going to be out. One of them is actually getting married, so we could not ask him to continue the duties of the live stream and try to manage through his wedding. So the whole month of July, what we're going to do is, if you are choosing to attend our services in person, we're only having one service. It's the 10 a.m. service, and that's going to be in our sanctuary. So we're not going to have our 8 o'clock service or our 11:15 contemporary service. But if you're watching us online, what we're going to do is we're going to rebroadcast our series called Heaven from last year. And it was one of the most powerful series that we have done, and I'm excited really to be able to go through it again. So we're going to broadcast those messages. But if you want the full sort of immersive experience, if you did not join us last year, we're going to have all of the materials from last year still going to be available. They're on our website. You can still find all the Heaven series materials. It's on a little tab drop down that is entitled Heaven. It has our videos that went along with the book that we read. We read a book called Imagine Heaven. If you want a copy of that, you can pick that up from Amazon. But there are interviews of some of the people that we read about in that book that are going to be on that page as well. So all the 5 weeks of July, we're going to have a message about heaven, but also we'll have some of those videos available for you as well. So all that stuff's going to be available to you on the website. Please feel free to make use of all that. And even if you were here last year, you're really going to enjoy going through this material again. So we do thank you for all of that. A couple of things I wanted to say just in terms of announcements. If you are in Louisville and you drive past the building, you're going to see we still have our Stuff the Bus campaign going on. Throughout the month of July, we're still collecting school supplies for students in Louisville that are in need this coming fall. And so we're trying to get as many school supplies in that bus as we possibly can. And so you're welcome to bring those to the church office. If you want to simply make a donation for us to be able to do some of that work, you can visit our website, which is paradisechurch.org. If you go to the giving tab, you can drop down, and there's an option for you to give to the Stuff the Bus campaign there as well. One important thing that I do want to mention, at the end of June, we did as a congregation vote on a direction for our bell tower campaign, and all of that information is going to be on our website, but it's also going to be in an email that we're going to send out to you as well. Different ways for you to follow up what sort of the next step is now that we've decided the direction that we're going in. This is where we're going to go from this point on. So be looking for that. One of the reasons that we are revisiting the Heaven series from last year is that we do have an event that we're planning in the month of October. Sunday, October 2nd, we're going to have a movie night. And we're going to be showing a movie called The Case for Heaven. And we're really looking forward to that. And there's going to be sort of a fun night we have planned. In one part of the building, we're going to show the movie, The Case for Heaven, for adults. And in another part of the building, we're going to show the Minions movie for kids. Now, some of the adults may want to come down and watch the Minions movie. That's up to you. But we're going to have just a fun evening planned for adults and children and everyone in between. And so that was sort of our thought, is to go back through the Heaven material to get us ready for this event in the fall. And you'll be hearing more about that. You'll see more on that on our website and in some of the emails that you'll be receiving throughout the summer. But again, we do hope that you enjoy the rebroadcast of this series. And I'm going to ask you personally, keep me in prayer over the summer. Keep those who are out over the summer as well. That we would just have just a restful and recuperative season in July, we are really looking forward to what is coming in August. When we come back in August 7th, we're starting a new series called Elijah. And you'll see a little preview of that in this video as well as we enter into August and get ready for the fall. Have a wonderful summer, and I look forward to seeing all of you back in person or online live in the month of August. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Thanks be to God. While there were certainly some things that made this week eventful, there were some good things that happened, at least in my world. And so a couple of them that were interesting. I woke up one morning and I thought for a minute that I was having an out-of-body experience. I thought I was having a near-death experience because I looked out and every single street in my neighborhood was newly paved. Okay? Not with streets of gold. It was asphalt. But man, it was just beautiful. And it's amazing, what little things make me happy. And just to know so I'm out in Nimishillen off of Broadway, and they did our whole neighborhood. And I've noticed too, as you're coming up around the church, there's a bunch of streets that have been paved. That just makes you excited. I run, so I like to run on a nice, smooth, paved road. It just made me feel exciting. The other thing that was interesting this week is how many of you saw the Field of Dreams baseball game on Thursday? I thought that was amazing. It's one of my favorite movies. It's 30 years old, which is that's bizarre to think about that. But they went back to Iowa and they actually played a baseball game on the site where the movie was filmed. And so it was significant for a few reasons. I got to bring my son James to Iowa this past April, and he was wrestling in a national wrestling tournament, and there's really only three things in Iowa. It's this wrestling tournament, there is a national camper museum, which is legit, and then this Field of Dreams movie site, and so we went to all three of those. But it was just to see this baseball game. When we went in April, there was no corn. That was the only difference. There was no corn in April, and so just to see. So Kevin Costner comes out of the corn, and behind him come the baseball players. It was for a movie fan or a baseball fan. It was incredible just to watch that. It was just an incredible scene. And so it was just very cool to sort of watch that and experience that. But then last night, I'm putting my final thoughts together for today. And some of you may have seen this, some of you may have not. Sports are on all the time. I mean, it's better than having Fox or CNN on. You just leave sports on, and the news you need kind of comes through those venues. And we were watching. I've been actually watching. I'm a Detroit fan, so pray for me. But we were watching Miguel Cabrera. He's a baseball player for the Detroit Tigers. He has 499 home runs. So every time he comes up to bat, whatever game they're on, they switch to him because they want to see, is he going to hit 500. He didn't do it last night, so I was disappointed. Tigers still won, which is kind of cool. They defeated the Indians, so I feel bad for any of you. All that being said, now we're watching that, and then all of a sudden, this other thing starts to happen, and they start talking about this guy. His name is Tyler Gilbert. Okay, and raise your hand if you've ever heard of Tyler Gilbert. Hands, anyone? Tyler Gilbert. Has anyone ever? The great Tyler Gilbert, no one's ever heard. There's a reason you've not heard of Tyler Gilbert. Okay, Tyler Gilbert he plays for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he was just called up on August 3rd, and he's a pitcher, and he has been struggling in the minor leagues for years. I mean, just AAA, AA ball. There's nothing really more, I guess, fun but not glamorous as AA baseball. And so he finally gets a call up, and he has thrown just a few innings in relief, which means they've just sort of sprinkled him in. But last night was his first major league start. And so what starts to happen is they start this little thing on the ticker. They simply say, it says no hitter watch. Tyler Gilbert has gotten through 5 innings, and that's sort of the make or break. No one's really throwing a no-hitter until you get to the 5th inning. And then you got to the 6th inning. And then it gets to, he has thrown through 7 innings. And so then the world shuts off, okay? Any other game, any other thing that's going on, all the cameras go to this young man, his first major league start. And then it goes through, he gets through the 8th. There's a couple of pop flies, and as soon as you see the ball leave the bat, you're like, oh no, you're just watching. And then it gets to the 9th inning, and this whole time they're watching, they keep switching back to his dad. Somehow they find where his dad is sitting, and they're shooting, the camera, and he's just this, he's got this, white hair, he's got this fabulous Fu Manchu mustache thing going on, and he is just up in the stands. He is just going crazy. He's just losing his mind and all of that. And so they're showing him, but then they will shoot back up and they'll show the dad in the stands. And he goes through the bottom of the 9th, and then he gets the first one on fly. He strikes out the second one, and the third one, fly ball, caught in the center field, and everybody just loses their mind. It was absolutely beautiful. It was the kind of thing that you just don't see, and this is such a rare thing that has happened. The last person to do this, to throw a no-hitter in their first major league game, was in 1953. That was the last time. There's only been 4 people now that have done it. The other 2 people were people that they showed the dates of when they did it. One did it in 1891, and the other one did it in 1893. So this young man just rocked the entire sports world. And so if you are a sports fan, 5 o'clock yesterday, I could not have told you who Tyler Gilbert was. Now, I want a Tyler Gilbert jersey. That's where I'm sort of taking it. Now, what was amazing, though, is that they kept asking. They were very interested in the dad. They were very interested in this father watching this moment. And so they asked him all the standard questions. Hey, are you nervous? Or what was your game plan? And he's trying his best. He has very obviously never done a major league interview. He's interviewed by the local people, and then all of a sudden the national people, they come on, the Major League Baseball Network comes on, ESPN comes on. In a matter of moments, this young man, his face is everywhere. He's a national star, and he's trying his best. He's given those standard sports answers. If you've ever seen a sports interview, there's nothing worse than the sports interview, because they really don't say anything. We're just trying our hardest, and one game at a time, and they never say anything good. And he's trying his hardest, but they kept asking, "Were you nervous?" All that, but they kept saying, "Hey, did you see your dad?" And they kept keying in on that. He comes down, he hugs him. It was beautiful. And as I am thinking about all of that, I'm thinking about, man, there's so many people that saw this. The one thing that he was interested in was his dad. Did you know that your dad was watching you? Did you know that your dad was watching you? Of course I knew my dad was watching me. And that's what I want to spend a little bit of time on today. So we talk about, we've been in this series on heaven. And if you're coming sort of right in the middle of it, you're not missing too much. But we've been not only talking about heaven, but we've been talking about this book called Imagine Heaven. And the author of this book has gone through and he has recorded 1,000 near-death experiences. of people who were believers, non-believers, atheists, doctors, people of different faiths, people from all over the world. And he was simply interested in what did these people see. And these near-death experiences came in all kinds of forms. Our first week, we looked at Dr. Mary Neal. She had a kayaking accident where she was drowned. She was caught under a waterfall for about 30 minutes. And what she saw, what she experienced. Last week, we focused on Don Piper, who was in a car, and he was basically run over by an 18-wheeler. And he was dead for 90 minutes. And the things that he saw. And what they all sort of tell us were very interesting things. They first and foremost said it was beautiful, that it was peaceful. The things that they saw were they couldn't even explain it. They talked about colors that they had never seen before. They had all of a sudden all of the aches and pains that reminded them of how old they were. Those were all gone. That they were youthful. That they were full of energy. But today what I want to focus on is not just, hey, I feel great and the streets of gold and all that. I want to focus on who was it that they saw. Now, in the Christian faith, we have a belief. We talk about frequently the idea of the return of Jesus. Jesus says that he's going to return one day. And so that is something that we talk about. We believe that. When we go through the Apostles' Creed, when we read the Apostles' Creed, at the very bottom it says, from there he will come to judge the living and the dead. And we talk about the idea of the resurrection of our body and the life everlasting. We talk about that. That is an important thing for us. And it's sort of an exciting thing to think about the return of Jesus. And there's really sort of two things we're looking forward to. We're either looking forward to the day that we die and we get to go to this place, or we look forward to the day that Christ returns. Now, I remember as a child, as a teenager, I from a very early age, I knew that I wanted to be a minister. I knew that I had a calling on my life. And I believed all this. I believed, the idea of the second coming of Jesus. It's one of the things that we preach. But I also remember as a teenager thinking, man, I do want Jesus to come back. But I hope he comes after college. I hope I get to go to college I love Jesus. I want Jesus to come back. Okay? But I kind of want him to come after college. And then I thought, well, after I get married. Maybe after I get married. Let me get married first. Have some kids. Maybe. And now I'm at sort of this interesting phase of, I do want Jesus to come back. But I do want one of my children to have a child so that I could be a grandfather. I do want that. Jesus come back any day. I'm looking forward to your return. Any day. Just not today. Let me at least have a grandchild before you come. And it's sort of interesting because this is such an important belief for us. And the idea of whether Christ returns or us seeing Jesus on the day of our death. And the question I have for you is this: are you excited about that thought? Are you excited about that thought? Or do you have some of that same pensiveness that I have? I'm not so sure. I'm excited about heaven. I'm excited about all of that. But am I really looking forward to that? Our opening hymn was kind of interesting. If you look at the words that the opening hymn was going through, when we all get to heaven, it's again back on page 542 in your hymnals, and it talks about all this wonderful stuff that we're going to see the mansions bright and blessed. He has prepared a place for us. But the whole song, the climax of the song, gets to a very important part. When we all see Jesus. When we all see Jesus. And the question is that the climax of your song? Is that the climax of your song? Yes, you're going to see loved ones. There's going to be a reunion. There's going to be all those good things that come with it. But the height of that song is when we all see Jesus. He at one point, the hymn says, just one glimpse of him in glory will the toils of life repay. Just one glimpse of him in glory will the toils of life repay. What that means is, man, everything that you've gone through, it'll be worth it. And all that stuff that you're going to carry in with you, you're going to think, you know what? I'm okay. Romans chapter 8, verses 18 through 21, we've been circling around this for the last few weeks. Yet what we suffer now is nothing compared to the glory he will reveal to us later. For all creation is waiting eagerly for that future day when God will reveal who his children really are. Against its will, all creation was subjected to God's curse. But with eager hope, the creation looks forward to the day when it will join God's children in glorious freedom from death and decay. So in these current hard times, is your joyful anticipation of where you are going and who you will see when you get there, is that deepening? Now, as I'm watching all the cool baseball stuff last night, the other thing that is sort of hard to sort of get is we're watching Afghanistan basically fall apart like a sandcastle on the beach. It just sort of seems like it is just crumbling away. And normally that is something I would like, that's concerning, and I wonder what our policy is going to be, and all of that. I have a son who is graduating from Ranger School. I'm going to get to pin him on August 27th. I'm very excited about that. And then the thought starts crossing my mind, like, he's now a highly trained soldier. That starts to worry me. I have another son who is currently in Hungary, so he's a little bit closer to Afghanistan than we are. Like, man, he's really close. And I start to worry. And I start to feel my hope start to drain a little bit. But I realize that no, God is still in control no matter what direction that story or stories go. Now, we've been in this book, Imagine Heaven. And if you haven't had a chance to read it yet, I'm going to encourage you to get a copy. I think we still have just a few left if you still want to jump in. We've been doing this on Sundays, but we're also inviting you to come on Tuesday at 10 o'clock and Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We're watching interviews of people that you have been reading about in the book. This Tuesday, we're actually going to look at the story of Dale Black. He was a pilot who was actually flying with two other people. He flies right into a building. The plane crashes into a building, and the plane falls hundreds of feet to the ground, and somehow he resuscitates after being pronounced dead for a while. He tells his story, so we're going to share a little bit of that on Tuesday. But there was another story that I wanted to read to us this morning. It's just a powerful, powerful account. The gentleman's name is Ian McCormick. He's 21 years old, and he's a surfer. Okay, he is just one of these guys like, hey, I just live for surf. He does this little, hang loose or hang 10 or cowabunga, or I don't know what the lingo is, okay? But he's just one of those dudes. He's just got the surfboard, and he is just chasing the eternal wave. And he tells the story of something that happened to him. So he set out from New Zealand in search of the perfect wave, the perfect high, the perfect girl, the surfer's life, traveling through Australia and Indonesia. And he was 2 years into this search of basically just searching for pleasure. One night, he actually went scuba diving. He was invited by some friends. He was scuba diving in the Indian Ocean. And a school of box jellyfish stung Ian 4 times. Now, one sting is deadly. 4 times he was stung. In the ambulance on the way to the hospital, Ian's life began vividly to replay before his eyes. He says, I lay there wondering what will happen if I die. Then I saw a clear vision of my mother saying, Ian, no matter how far from God you are, no matter what you've done, if you cry out to God from your heart, he will hear you and he will forgive you. In my heart I was thinking, do I believe there is a God? Am I going to pray? He admits it. He says, I was a a devout atheist. I really didn't have any faith, yet I was confronted by the vision of my mom. It says I didn't know what to pray or whom to pray to. Which God should I pray to? Buddha, Kali, Shiva? Yet my mother followed Jesus Christ, and I wondered what I should pray. The Lord's Prayer his mom had taught him when he was a child came to mind. Forgive us our sins came to his mind. He said, Lord, I've done so many wrong things. I don't know how you can forgive me, but please forgive me. The next line came up, as we forgive those who sinned against us. And Ian thought, well, I don't hold many grudges, but God had reminded him of some folks in his life that he probably should forgive. Then Ian slipped away. At first, Ian found himself fully alive, but in utter darkness that terrified him. We're actually going to explore this next week. We're going to look at some of the more unpleasant accounts of those who've had near-death experiences and what the idea of hell is really about and all that. So we'll invite you to come back next week for that. It says, but Ian described what happened next. I was weeping by now, and I cried out to God, why am I here? I asked you for forgiveness. Why am I here? Then a bright light shone upon me and literally drew me out of the darkness. I could see that the source of light was emanating from the very end of the tunnel. It looked unspeakably bright, as if it were the center of the universe, more brilliant than the sun. Yet you could look right into it. The light wasn't just material in nature, but was a living light that transmitted an emotion and filled me with a sense of love and acceptance. I came out of the tunnel and seemed to be standing upright before the source of all the light and power. It looked like white fire or a mountain of cut diamonds sparkling with the most indescribable brilliance. And as I stood there, questions began to race in my mind. Is this just a force, as the Buddhists would say, or karma, or yin and yang? Could there actually be someone standing there? As I thought through these thoughts, a voice spoke to me from the center of the light. It was the same voice that I had heard earlier, guiding his prayer. The voice said, Ian, do you wish to return? He said, if I'm out of my body, I don't know where I am. I wish to return. The response from this person was this: if you wish to return, Ian, you must see me in a new light. And the moment that he heard these words, he recognized and realized that he was standing in front of Jesus. He remembered a Christmas card that he saw as a child that simply said, Jesus is the light of the world, and that God is light, and there is no darkness in him. So he understood that this was God, that this was Christ. He is light. He said he knew my name, and he knew the secret thoughts of my heart and my mind. He said you can wear masks before other people, but you cannot wear a mask before God. He said, I felt ashamed and undone. My first thought was that the light was going to cast me back into the pit. But to my amazement, a wave of pure, unconditional love flowed over me. It was the last thing I expected. Instead of judgment, I was being washed with pure love. Pure, unadulterated, clean, uninhibited, undeserved love. Later, God showed me that when I had asked for forgiveness in the ambulance, it was then that he forgave me and he washed my spirit clean. I found myself beginning to weep uncontrollably as the love became stronger and stronger. This love was healing my heart, and I began to understand that there is an incredible hope for humankind in this love. I was so close, I wondered if I could just step into the light that surrounded God and see him face to face. As I stepped into the light, it was as if I had come inside the veils of suspended shimmering lights, like suspended stars or diamonds. Standing at the center of the light stood a person with dazzling white robes reaching down to his ankles. I could see his bare feet. The garments were not man-made fabrics, but were garments of light. As I lifted my eyes up, I could see the chest of a man whose arms outstretched as if to welcome me. I looked towards his face. It was so bright, I couldn't make out the features of his face. I knew that I was standing in the presence of Almighty God. No one but God could look like this. And this is just one of the stories that we found in the book that we've been reading through. And one of the things that sort of stuck out when we looked at, so many of these people kept talking about, I saw this person of light. I saw what I believed to be Jesus standing in front of me. One of the most fascinating parts was that there were researchers who had looked at this, who had started examining these near-death experiences, and they started looking. These two researchers, Osis and Haraldson, they studied 500 American near-death experience stories, and then they went over to India, and they studied 500 Indian Hindu near-death experience stories. And what they found was amazing. That even in both parts of the world, people told the same story. That there wasn't really an account of somebody, I saw Krishna who has blue skin, or I saw Shiva who has 3 eyes, or my body did not dissolve into the Brahma or anything like that. That everywhere they talked to people who had these experiences, they saw a person, he had a book, and they recognized something like that. One of the things that is amazing about all of these accounts is that it is not just a force. It was not just this energy field. The first thing is that God is love and light. That God is love and light. That over and over, as these people had these experiences happen to them, they kept coming back and saying, it just was the most incredible love that I had ever felt. I had never felt or seen anything like that. The other thing that was interesting is that when you look in the pages of the Old Testament and the reading that we began with this morning out of Daniel, is that there are a number of accounts. When in Exodus chapter 34, when Moses wants to see the glory of God, he describes it in the same way that Daniel describes it in the same way as well. That in Ezekiel chapter 1, he describes seeing this man who is radiant of light around him. That everywhere you look, this is the same thing that people kept coming back and recounting. There was one woman who told a story about a 3-year-old who fell into their pool and drowned. Doctor said he wouldn't survive, and if he did, he would have brain damage. 12 hours later, miraculously, he recovered. And the mom reported, he told me of seeing Jesus, of Jesus' smile. And the mom asked, well, what did he look like? With a childish chuckle, he said, like Jesus, Mommy. His total assurance of Jesus was breathtaking. And the reality is that it was somebody that knew them. That there was not a sense that they did not recognize him and he did not recognize you. The idea is what's important here is that God is personal. That is not just this impersonal thing. Have you ever walked into a room and people sort of, they're glad to see you, but they're kind of looking past you? Okay, this happens to me all the time. I walk into a room and people are like, oh, where's Misty? Where's your wife? Where are your kids? I'm like, am I not? What? When you are standing in front of this person, when you're standing in front of Jesus, he's been waiting for you. He's been looking forward to you being there. That God is even more human that in terms of relationship than anything that we could possibly imagine. The other thing is that God is relational. That God is in a relationship with us, and that is where we spend a lot of our time. One of the things that is interesting is that when Jesus is in his ministry on this earth, he spends a lot of time talking about stewardship, what you have, what you should do with your possessions and all that. But the other thing is that he wants to make sure you understand that there is this God that is in relationship with you. In the reading that we just had from John chapter 3, verses 16 through 18 is very familiar to all of us. But again, it says, this is how God loved the world. He gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. The verse doesn't say that all good people, the verse does not say, well, a bunch of people, or people from this part of the world, or this part of the world, or these people from this economic strata. No, that everyone who believes in him. And each of those stories, as we sort of have looked over the last few weeks, of just the excitement when you arrive, the excitement on his face. And I have been watching you. I'm proud of you. I'm so glad that you are here. And it's my hope that that does something to you this morning. You may not be excited about who's watching you from the stands, but they are really excited about you. They are so excited about you. And that is really what the relationship with Christ is all about. That's everything that we've been talking about, everything that we've been focusing on. Is that beautiful promise that Jesus gives to Nicodemus in John chapter 3. And it's the same promise that he gives to the two thieves that are hanging beside him on the cross. Today you're going to be with me in paradise. I hope that's something that you're looking forward to. I don't want that to scare you. I don't want that to be something that stokes fear. I want that to be something that fills up your hope and continually fills it each and every day. That the one who's watching you from the stands cannot wait for you to actually come home. Let's pray. God, we cannot even begin to say thank you enough. While we worry and judge ourselves and criticize and keep false lines that divide us from other people, we're just so excited that you are in the stands watching us, ready to run down onto the field, ready to greet us, ready to reaffirm how much you love us and how proud you are of us. God, we thank you that we have a relationship with you. We are excited to watch that relationship continue to grow until the day we are reunited with you. And all this we pray in your name. Amen.
Do we have a soul that survives our physical demise? It was the most ambitious investigation of my life. Can near-death experiences tell us anything reliable about life after death? And why should we trust what Jesus tells us about heaven and about hell?
Jesús dice, yo soy el camino, la verdad y la vida.
They are trying to find some way to live on beyond their death. They're running out of time.
The whole point of the resurrection is that I wouldn't have to fear it in a sense of, oh no, what's going to happen next?
I didn't really care whether I was going to heaven or hell.
I have absolutely no idea what happens after we die.
There's something that it is to be us. There's something that it is like to be you.
When we die, we leave our natural bodies, but we're still ourselves. It's life on steroids. It's life beyond anything we've experienced.
If that typewriter could magically send a message to young Lee that started here, what would you tell him?
Oh, man, I think I'd say, keep seeking. The truth is out there. This is my case